Atlantic Philanthropies partnership with the Irish government and the citizens of Ireland has been hugely significant. They recognised in us something that we didn't know we had. I hope they will be able to point to Ireland and say, this is what we did in Ireland, this is what we achieved. Talk to the people in Ireland and they will tell you how good this partnership has been.
The late 1970s and early 1980s were challenging times in the Republic of Ireland. The economic recession had caused high unemployment and mass immigration. Investment in education and the knowledge industries was practically non-existent. As a proud Irish American, Chuck Feeney had already visited Ireland for vacations with his family. By the mid-1980s, however, after founding the Atlantic Philanthropies, Chuck began to view the country in a different light.
Chuck is an entrepreneur. He saw an undervalued asset. He saw a people whose skill sets and opportunities for impact were underdeveloped. I think ultimately what attracted and kept Chuck in Ireland and led to the investments that he and Atlantic made were the people of Ireland and the vision of what was possible.
Chuck Feeney had seen the impact of his investments in universities in the United States. He strongly believed that education would be central to creating opportunities and building a knowledge economy in Ireland, where the third-level education system was in dire need of support.
Irish education had not kept pace, and I just had the experience in my life of realizing that it's with educated people that you can achieve more, and so we wanted to reinforce the structures of the universities.
Before Atlantic got involved with the Irish higher education system, we weren't in a very good place nationally or internationally. Our reputation wasn't strong. Of course we had good individuals, as we always had, but in particular infrastructure was very poor.
Atlantic developed an extraordinary concept called the Programme for Research in Third Level Institutions, or PRTLI. Universities throughout Ireland embarked on major building programmes, and Dublin City University was a prime example.
We were able to put in place world-class laboratories, world-class research centres, which actually transformed our ability to engage on the world stage and to compete on the world stage. This has been replicated right across DCU, but more importantly, it's been replicated right across Ireland.
Around the country, university campuses were transformed. Academic life was enriched and the entire student experience was changed utterly. Atlantic's experience supporting higher education proved useful as funding soon expanded to other areas, including children, ageing and human rights.
I think the distinctive element of the Ireland story was Chuck's ability and Atlantic's ability to engage directly with government.
I think one of the big benefits about being a spend down foundation is that you are able to make serious investments and that you're able to build partnerships with government. One of the projects we work with is Preparing for Life, which is in the north side of Dublin. Preparing for Life is a home visiting programme which works with parents and babies through to the child starting school.
Prior to Atlantic coming into Ireland, we peripherally worked with kids in after-school clubs and summer camps and all that, but we never tried to change what was happening in the family home. I've seen kids who should have succeeded not succeeding, so I believe that the foundations have to be built early in life.
The parents and children that have done this, I don't know, the kids are a lot more happier and they'll get on great in school and they'll do well because they have all the tools that were put in place for them and for the parents for them to do well.
It's quite extraordinary to kind of think if you do something with a baby, it has that sort of effect in the longer term.
We still have a long way to go, but for the rest of my working career, I will be pushing for prevention, early intervention to become embedded right across Irish society.
Another long-time Atlantic grantee was Bernardo's, the biggest children's charity in Ireland, working with vulnerable children and their families and campaigning for the rights of all children.
Amplifying Voices is one of the projects that Atlantic has funded, and that has been a fantastic project for us to be involved in because it's something we haven't done before.
All young people have a right to be heard. All young people have the right to have fun.
All young people deserve a safe place to play.
As a part of Amplifying Voices, a group of young people from Tala in West Dublin identified the changes that they would like to see in their community. One was that they wanted somewhere safe to play. So they lobbied politicians and councillors and rallied community support. And in 2014, Dublin County Council funded an all-new multi-use games area.
The difference of this project was it was about listening to children's voices. What was important to them? What did they want to change and what did they want to influence? And it wasn't about their problems, it was about what they wanted to create. It was really positive.
In conjunction with public-private partnership, Atlantic also sought to build capacity across civil society in sectors such as ageing.
People were living longer, that was wonderful, tremendous achievement, bounty, but there was also burden associated with it in the sense that how are health systems going to cope, how are pension systems going to cope. So it was clear there were major questions in this area.
It was an opportunity to reframe, what people thought about ageing. So getting away from thinking about ageing as being a health issue, an illness issue, to looking at the fact that older people were living longer, they were having second and third careers, and there was an opportunity to promote what became known as positive ageing.
Along with supporting the highest quality research and establishing networks which brought all the key players in the ageing field together, addressing the rise in the numbers of people with dementia was a priority for Atlantic. With Atlantic and government funding, Genio is helping to develop community supports for people with dementia and their carers in the Living Well with Dementia project.
We wouldn't have been able to do any of the work that we're doing without the confidence that Atlantic placed in us. What makes this really worthwhile is meeting people on the ground who are having much better lives as a result of what we're doing, and knowing that this is something that other people will be able to benefit from as well. So it's a real privilege to be able to have this kind of impact.
Dementia has been recognised by the World Health Organization, the European Union and the G8 as one of the great health and social care challenges of the 21st century. In December 2014, the government, with Atlantic, launched a groundbreaking new national strategy for dementia in Ireland.
I genuinely believe that we are writing a new foundation, a new chapter of national policy, one that actually cherishes memories of those who live with dementia and indeed the memory of those who have passed on.
My name is Helen Rochford Brennan. I have early onset Alzheimer's.
Well, for me, I think it's very important that finally there is a strategy for this country, and that alone is a wonderful thing, because when I was diagnosed there was not a strategy, so there wasn't a plan. So I think for me it's a great move forward.
Building capacity and strengthening voice was also central to Atlantic's work in the field of reconciliation and human rights. Atlantic funding focused on advancing the rights and representation for three marginalised groups in Irish society: people with disabilities, migrants, and the lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgendered community.
The possibility of Atlantic funding for 5 years, and significant funding to allow us to employ very skilled people. I mean, that was a phenomenal game changer of an opportunity. And for somebody like myself, who had been working in a volunteer capacity for many years, it was almost like too good to be true.
After years of advocacy, one of Glen's greatest successes came in 2010 with the Civil Partnership Act. The Act contained some of the most far-reaching legal protections in the world for gay and lesbian couples. All the more remarkable when one considers that just 16 years before, homosexual conduct was considered a criminal offence. Although Atlantic's final grants to Glen and other LGBT rights organisations were awarded in 2011, the work continued, and in May 2015, Ireland became the first country in the world to vote by public referendum for full marriage equality. Ireland had been traditionally a society of outward migration. Then, in the mid-1990s, as the economy began to grow, migrants began arriving in unprecedented numbers. With Atlantic funding, the Immigrant Council of Ireland successfully worked to improve the lengthy and complex process of acquiring Irish citizenship.
With the funding from Atlantic Philanthropies, we were able to sustain and maintain the issue of immigration and integration on the agenda.
They entered this room as the sons and daughters of 115 different nations. But after a few short sentences, they left as one, as Irish citizens.
I'm Irish, man. Thank you. So we have equal rights.
I came with a work permit. I'm working really hard, and I'm so proud to be an Irish citizenship. Really, really proud.
And what are you going to be when you grow up?
The President of Ireland.
At long last, the government is sending a signal that Ireland is a different country to what it was before, to develop a sense of belonging, a feeling of being part of a community.
I think the legacy impact that we have achieved through the Rights Programme is the increased visibility and confidence and participation of minority communities in Irish society. It doesn't matter what disability we may have, what our sexual orientation is, what country we may have originally come from and now call Ireland home. We all have a contribution to make. Participation is key, and I really do think that that's the future of this country.
I think the most striking feature in the Republic of Ireland is the scale, the size of the footprint of Atlantic in this place. It's both deep and broad, and in any area that you look at, whether it's education or children or ageing or human rights, you keep coming across new areas where you didn't even realise that there was an Atlantic connection, but people tell you stories about, a grant that enabled something to be done, that enabled relationships to be created, that enabled a field to move forward. So I think the sheer scale of the engagement over 30 years is just remarkable.
Atlantic's impact in Ireland, in a word,